Please don't fall. Hello, everyone. Welcome or welcome back to Dirty Martini. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're having an amazing day. Guys, I'm so excited for today's episode because I physically need to be here with you. And yes, I know I'm very well aware of the way I look. I'm aware that this is not a really presentable look. But you and I have known each other for almost 2 years now. You deserve to see me at my in my truest form at midnight on the 1st of March. Finally, but we will get there. It's just, I really could not be bothered to put an effort into the way I looked today. You always catch me at my worst. You always catch me when my hair is so oily, it could start like a global conflict. I said when I literally can just wash my hair and then record, but like, who has the energy to do that? And yes, I this time around couldn't even make my bed. I will try to crop out and like zoom in a bit differently so that you cannot see the way my bed looks, because like it's not really presentable. There's even like Wuthering Heights, which I just finished yesterday. It's been a week, okay? It has been a week. I feel like I'm experiencing a severe burnout, and I have been becoming way more reflective of it now when I am writing my thesis, because it's so difficult to write a master's thesis when all you want to do is anything but that. But that's okay. That's okay because I will push through it. I didn't pay all this money to not write my thesis and not graduate, so I'll get there. It will just take a little bit of mental and cognitive effort, than like a bit more than I can provide right now, but it's okay. Sometimes your 100% varies per day. Sometimes all you can do is 75 or like 12, and that's okay. That's okay. As long as you keep pushing, as long as you keep showing up, it should be fine. Every single day this week, I have been saying, oh, I'm just going to write this subchapter of my literature review, because why is writing literature reviews so incredibly annoying? And it's the most frustrating part from conducting research, apart from like the conduction of the research and like writing up the research. But like, just so you know, I want you to be prepared when I release my study to participants. I am begging you to please fill it out, but everything with its time. Now let's try to leave the thesis to the side, because I just really cannot be bothered with it right now because it's bothering me. And I just want to distract myself a little bit. And also, like, on top of this, I'm also personally going through an existential crisis, not only because of the burnout and like the impending doom of what's going to happen after graduation, and me not having a plan about what I want from life, and like having a concept of a plan or having a concept of an idea of what I want from life, but also in what is so. I originally wanted to record this episode on the 27th. It was strategic, it was intentional, it was deliberate. Now it's the first, as of 9 minutes ago. Um, this month is my birthday, and if you know me in any capacity, you know that I'm not the reason I'm mentioning this is not because I'm like the type of person who's like, oh my god, yeah, it's my birthday month and like let's celebrate every single day because it's my birthday month. I am the exact opposite, and the reason I'm mentioning this is because in the upcoming few episodes, obviously I don't plan stuff in advance, as you can probably tell. But in the upcoming few months, no, episodes, I am warning you that you might notice a trend of more than normal existential crisis, more than normal existential fear. That is normal. That is because my birthday is approaching, and every single year when my birthday is approaching, it is a very difficult moment for me because I have a very conflicting relationship with aging. But we will cover that extensively when the birthday episode comes out. It's always the month before my birthday. I always just start reflecting on what I did that year, and I'm always reflective of the fact that this is my last month being that age ever in my life. And I always start being reflective, and I start evaluating what I've done that year and what I want to achieve by the time I am no longer that age. Um and I will cover more of this in depth later on in the birthday episode in a few weeks from now. But I really struggled being 23. I don't know why it was so difficult for me. I don't know why it felt so unnatural and so odd. But now, in this process of evaluation, which is literally the most toxic thing I can do, because all I'm doing is comparing myself to my previous other selves, which at times were happier, but also maybe we're not. And now it's just nostalgia, just distorting my lens through which I'm looking at my past. But it's a bit difficult because I'm comparing myself to myself. And yeah, it's, I'll just leave this for the future, okay? But now let's focus on the fact that it is the 1st of March. I know that for many of you, this means absolutely nothing. But the 1st of March is my favorite Bulgarian holiday. So basically, what I have here is a bracelet called Martinica. And the 1st of March is a big national holiday in Bulgaria. And it celebrates the coming of spring. And it is basically named Baba Marta, which translates to Grandma March, Grandma Marta, and everybody who has the name Martin, Martina, Martha. It's their name day. So yay! And this is not me being like, oh my god, you should wish me a happy name day. Although name days in Bulgarian history have been known to be more important than birthdays, and that is because during the Ottoman Empire's occupation of Bulgaria, names were people's connection to Bulgarian history and Bulgarian identity. And as the occupation happened, there was a lot of change in names. So names became more important culture wise than birthdays, because birthdays symbolize the individual, but the name a Bulgarian name symbolizes the ethnicity, the culture, the history. And that's why, um, for example, when you celebrate a very notable Bulgarian figure, oftentimes this celebration happens on their name day, which name days I know are a thing in Slavic cultures, but they're not a thing in other cultures. But basically, it's this day of the year which almost every single day has a specific saint or a notable figure, or like it's connected to some sort of a celebration, some sort of a holiday, and every single person wearing the name of that saint or whose name derives from the name of that saint, it's their celebration day, like their name day. um so yeah, names are historically important for preserving the ethos and the culture of Bulgarians during those 5 centuries of occupation. And that's why they became so important as a way to commemorate Bulgarian history. And that's why they're perceived as more important than birthdays, or at least used to be. Nowadays, you still celebrate your name day, but it's not leveled or like perceived as a priority over your birthday. It's just something that was back then. So yeah, what is a magdanica for those of you who are not Bulgarian, for those of you who are not Balkan? Because this is not something that exists only in Bulgaria, although it is, like, history says that it originated from Bulgaria, although like Romanians and Moldovan might disagree. But like, obviously, I, as a Bulgarian, will say that it originated in Bulgaria. And it is a bracelet which as a cultural phenomenon, as a cultural celebration, it is protected by UNESCO as cultural heritage. And basically, it is this type of bracelet. As you can probably see, it is white and red thread. Normally, it is made out of wool. This one my grandparents gave me. Every single time I go home in February, I always have everyone from my family give me a magdanica, and I always make them one because here, obviously, I cannot get a magdanica from anyone else. So I still like it's my favorite holiday. It is so cheerful. It is so uplifting because it welcomes spring. It welcomes nature. It welcomes life coming back into nature, into just yeah. And it is my favorite ever holiday from all like Bulgarian holidays, which trust me are a plethora. But basically, it is the bracelets are made most traditionally out of wool thread or like wool yarn. Um, and white is supposed to represent peace and purity, and red is supposed to represent blood and um, life. And there are a lot of histories, a lot of stories about how Magdanica came to be. Some of them are rooted in pagan holidays or like pagan traditions. Others claim that it's rooted in our uh, founder, like the founder of the country, the modern country. And by modern, I mean like the country was still like founded in by that person in 680 de facto, but de jure in 681. So yeah, why am I saying this as if you're like in history lesson? I don't know, but it's just like I'm so incredibly proud of this ritual tradition celebration, and it's my favorite. And Magdanica, so we basically you give this to people to wish them a very prosperous spring, a very prosperous year, and to wish them health and happiness. And basically, um, I remember when I was in school, you would always exchange. Like the thing is, classes in Bulgaria from the first to the 12th grade. I don't know how it is in universities because I obviously don't go to a university in Bulgaria and I have never been to a university in Bulgaria. So I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but I can guarantee that for classes from the first until the 12th grade, your class is set. It's not like for example, now in university, I am in different classes for different subjects. Whereas in Bulgaria, in the educational system, up until high school, including, um, you are with the same 25 to 30 people and you do all subjects together. So you would just get 30 magdanici to give to all your classmates, but you would also go gift magdanici to your teachers. So you would exchange bracelets and you would obviously buy, like, for example, this is a fancy magdanica. The most normal ones are this thread that you have a bead over here and you just I don't know how to explain it, but like you just fasten it over here. But those are the fancy ones. You would buy that type of a bracelet for someone who's like your best friend or someone you really love, because those were a bit more expensive. And mind you, those are like maybe let's say 1 to 2 leva more expensive. But when you're a child and your daily ration of money is 2 leva, because back then 2 leva could actually buy you something. Um, actually, the left no longer exists, so never mind. But yeah, so that was like a luxury back then. And so you would get those, like they would sell them in packages of 10, and you would just give to each one of your classmates, your friends, your teachers, and yada, yada, yada. And I remember we would all just put all of the bracelets we would gather. And like, this is like 30 bracelets. It's bracelets up to my elbow. And we would count however many we got, and the person who got the most obviously won. And then, because nowadays, I mean, obviously nowadays when I'm here, I don't get magnetic unless I ask for them back home in February. So I get one from my parents, one from my sister, and one from my grandparents. So I have three Martiniti, and then I make one for myself, so four. But most, like, sometimes it's just like my mom who gives me one on behalf of everyone. So I am just rocking to Magninity. So now it's obviously like, even if I would get 30, I would not wear all 30 at the same time. But back when I was a child, I remember we would put like every single person would just, because this was like indicative of how popular you are, how loved you are, and blah 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 blah. I don't know why we perceived it that way, but children, what can I say? And basically, you would wear all those. Oh my god, I see it here. It is a euro. Oh my god, it's so weird to see a price in euro on a magazine. It's a, well, um, yeah. So you would wear all of them all the time. And obviously, because you need to shower, but like if you shower with them, you would just simply not shower your forearm. So you would like meticulously take each and every one of them, shower, and then put all of them back on. And this happens for like at most 21 days. So basically, you're supposed to put on the Magdanica on the 1st of March. And you are supposed to wear that bracelet until you see a stork, which is perceived as the symbol of the coming spring, because storks arrive in Bulgaria um, because they migrate to Bulgaria in spring, and they leave for southern countries, like warmer countries, later when it gets colder. So seeing a stork is indicative that warmer days are coming, spring is coming. So you're supposed to wear a martinitsa. It's so weird every single time I try to tell a story about something Bulgarian and I want to use the Bulgarian name, but I'm telling that story in English, and then I just like Englishize the Bulgarian word, or like pronounce it with some sort of an accent. And like the same thing happens to my name, because I always say Martina and my name is literally Martina. So I don't know why I do this. I apologize to Bulgarians out there who may feel that this is offensive, but whatever. So, you're supposed to wear this until you see a stork or until you see a blossoming tree. And if those two do not happen until astronomical um, spring sets on, so that is the 21st of March, then you take it off. And you take it off so you can either throw it in a running water, like in a river for luck. Now that I'm thinking about it, this is quite polluting. So I will tell you to do the second thing, which is the more popular thing, and which is the thing I always tell my friends here, because ever since I came here, I have always honored Baba Magda. I've always made bracelets to give to my friends here. I've introduced this tradition to many different cultures. Everybody absolutely loves it. Everybody can never wait until the 1st of March. And like, even people I'm no longer in touch with, I still text to give them a bracelet, because I know that it's like a symbol of me respecting them and thinking about them. And I just know that it's so nice to see your culture be embraced and appreciated. And it's so beautiful to see cultures collide and find unity in the little moments. And this is something which, yes, it spreads the culture, but it makes an emotion linger. And it makes, like, it's for something beyond the bracelet. For those people who did not grow up with the concept of Baba Magda, and they were introduced to it when they were 20 by a random Bulgarian girl that they met in their building, for them it's more reminiscent of this time of their life rather than the tradition that they didn't grow up with, because for them that tradition doesn't really make sense. So for them it's just like a symbol of emotional connection between peoples and the collision of countries and cultures in the most beautiful way. So basically, uh, you are supposed to take off the bracelet and put it on a fruit bearing tree after you see a stork, after you see a blossoming tree, or after the astronomical spring sets in. And when you put it on a fruit bearing tree, the idea is that by you, because those bracelets are a symbol which wishes you health and prosperity, that fruit bearing tree is going to bear a lot of fruit in the upcoming year. And I just think those things are so fascinating, how cultures develop, traditions develops, and how we still honor them in these hyper modern and like hyper digitalized worlds. It's just so nice to go back to our roots and commemorate what once connected us, and what for me was once an extremely nice um moment of exchange with friends. And by the way, magnetici are not age bound. Everybody in Bulgaria gets a magnetica. Doesn't matter if you're a baby, if you're an 80-year-old or whatever. Everybody gets a magnetica. There are so many different um designs. You can wear it as a pin, you can wear it as a bracelet, you can wear it as a keychain, as a necklace. There are so many manifestations of that tradition, and you can just have one hanging on your door or on your car, like on your rear view mirror. It's just so nice to see just everyone, despite all of our differences and all of the division that is happening, just be united by something as small as red and uh, white thread. I just think it's very beautiful. And that's why it is my favorite holiday, because it is so communal, but it also celebrates the onset of spring, which means the end of seasonal depression. Yay! Because now it's just time for regular depression. Yes, no, guys, honestly, this week I basically experienced the first ray of sunshine in the Netherlands I have experienced in the last more than half a year. And I know. I mean, now over the weekend when I'm not working, I mean, I just have a single day off. Obviously, the weather is extremely shit. And obviously, the days when the weather was extremely beautiful and it was extremely sunny and pleasant and basically the universe was begging you to be outside, I just had to work, or I had to work on my thesis, so I couldn't really be outside. But just me walking to university was one of the most pleasant things I have experienced, because there's already spring flowers popping here and popping up here and there, and there were rays of sunshine, and I just felt alive. And I just immediately started playing my Euro summer playlist. And I just want you to know, while in this episode, up until now, I've been commemorating Bulgarian culture, I need to say something. There is nobody who rules Europop the way Romanians do. Those people are just gods in Europop, and in particular, Inna. Inna is I am just, she's the queen of Europop. And there are rumors that there might be a collaboration between her and Zara Larson, current queen of Europop. So if that happens, there will be something in my Balkan European heart that's just going to flutter and feel an immense sense of pure joy. So I'm excited for that. Hopefully it's true. Hopefully it's true. Um, but yeah, I just felt so alive. And I know you may think that this is so incredibly trivial, But I dare you to move to a country where during winter you don't get sunshine whatsoever. If it's light outside, and I don't mean sunny, I mean light, it is light for, I want to say, 3 to 4 hours a day. It is constantly raining, constant overcast, constant darkness, and it's so incredibly depressing because you go out early in the morning to go to university or to work, and by the time it's 3:30 or 4, it's already dark outside, so you just don't get to experience daylight for weeks on end. And this obviously has an impact on your mental health. Although I have to admit that this year it was seasonal depression, although it has not fully, you know, dissolved yet. It was a bit easier this year because I was hyper aware of the fact that I do experience seasonal depression. Um, and this year I just made sure to just make it as easy as possible for me to stay as happy as possible, even if that as happy as possible was not like a very high level. I just did hobbies, I read books, and did other stuff apart from reading and studying, not apart from studying and working, to make my life and days worthwhile because they were already short as is. So yeah, I know you may think that seasonal depression is a made up term that just like Gen Z is trying to weaponize to be quirky and alternative. It's not. It's really not. Seasonal depression is such a real thing, which I also used to doubt before I moved here and actually experienced it firsthand. It is very real. It is very difficult to deal with. And that's why I honestly think I will not be able to live in this country long term. I'm so sorry, but just like I felt so alive this Wednesday when I was walking to university, and I was anxious as hell because I was having a presentation and I had to do like half of a 2 minute pitch, the other half for my group mate. And I was extremely nervous because, as you can probably tell by the fact that we've been here for 2 years already, I'm a yapper. If you want me to be concise, I cannot. I just go into many different directions with the things I say. So, me having to be as concise as possible and talk only for a minute and be timed is just something that makes me really, really anxious. While I already have a bit of not a great time publicly speaking. So I was anxious, but just feeling the sun on my skin made me feel alive and made me forget all my problems. And I was like, anything is possible. Anything is possible. Hannah Montana is back. There's sun out. I'm playing Europop. I'm playing Inna. I'm playing Alexandra Stan. I'm playing Mr. Saxo Beat. Everything's going to be okay. Um, and I just am reflective of the fact that I cannot let those moments, which make me feel alive, because really, I mean, maybe I became appreciative of the sun once it was taken away from me, but I just don't want those type of moments to be a once in every 8 months type of situation. I want this to be my everyday life. I feel so alive. I feel so energetic when the sun is out. Um, and I'm ready. I'm ready for such a climate to be my everyday. And I don't mean let's turn up global warming. I just mean like let's leave this country. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not like this country wants me either way. Um but yeah, and I'm just excited for spring, guys, because there's so much fruit that's going to be in season soon. And like, I mean, vegetables here. taste like absolutely nothing. Like air is more flavorful than the vegetables here, but like there's going to be vegetables, and I am excited. I'm so incredibly excited, and like that means that there's going to be Bulgarian vegetables on the Bulgarian market soon. And yes, they're going to cost an arm and a leg, but they're actually going to have flavor. And if you've never tasted a Bulgarian tomato, you've not lived. I swear to God, you have not lived. And I hope each and every one of you gets the privilege to taste the juiciest, most flavorful tomatoes in the face of Bulgarian tomatoes. Um, I'm excited. Coming soon, coming very, very soon. But another reason, what a segue. What a segue. Bro, my back is killing me. Another reason I don't think I would be able to stay in this country, or like, I don't know. Okay, let me just get straight to it. I just feel like no matter how long I've been here, no matter how much time I've spent here, and no matter how I have familiarized myself with the culture here and with different understandings, and no matter how much I've been exposed to people from different cultures and whatnot, there is still a cultural shock to me personally, in the sense that, so I come from the Balkans. I only mentioned it 700 times this episode. I come from Bulgaria, aka Eastern Europe. Eastern countries and Western countries, while the West is still trying to portray us as incompatible to them in terms of modernity and civilization, and us being backwards and us being uncultured and just regressive to their extremely progressive way of life, um, there is one fundamental difference between Eastern and Western countries, which I just still cannot adjust to. Eastern countries, Balkan countries, Bulgaria are very communal countries. Whereas the Western countries in which I have lived, aka the Netherlands and the UK, but I mean, in England, to be specific, but also just the other Western European countries, and like people from Western European countries I have encountered, but also not just Western European, just in general, Western countries, they're individualistic cultures. And here we're talking about a fundamentally different value system, morals and ethics, and just priorities. Because in the East, it is the community, the family that is put on a pedestal. Whereas in the West, it is the individual, it is the I, it is the myself that is put on a pedestal. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, although this is exactly what I'm going to be diving deeper into right now, because I do believe that one is better than the other to an extent. To an extent, everything in its extreme is obviously not optimal. Radicalism on any in anything is not optimal. It's not the best solution. But so basically, let me just illustrate this with the example which I encountered today, but also a few days ago. So today I finished work and I was heading towards the library to give a friend her Magdanica to put on tomorrow. And I am walking on the street and I just hear this extremely loud glass shattering noise. And I just see that this girl, it was raining. I see that this girl on the other side of the pavement, she was wearing a paperback, which because of the snow had, not snow, the rain had dissolved, and the newly bought glass jar that she was carrying in that bag fell through that dissolved bag, fell on the ground, and just shattered into lots and lots of pieces. So she's sitting there trying to get a grasp on the situation and what's going on. And people were around her, like this happened in the middle of a street where there's cafes and whatever, and there was an influx of people going to the city center. No one stopped to help that girl. Everybody was staring. Nobody stopped to help. So obviously, I go up to her because this is the way I was raised. This is the culture I grew up in. If you see someone in need of help, you help. Doesn't matter if they're a stranger, doesn't matter how old they are, doesn't matter what language they speak, doesn't matter their skin complexion, doesn't matter anything. If you see someone and help, you help them. So I go up to her and I'm like, hey, would you like me to help you? And she tells me, oh my God, yes, please. So I squat down and I start picking up the pieces from her shattered jar. But the thing is, she herself doesn't even pick up a single piece of glass. I was the only person picking up the glass. Mind you, I did cut myself in my pinky. I did cut my pinky a little bit. Nothing too crazy, whatever. It was my choice to go there and help her. I could have easily passed her, but like this is not like it would be against my moral beliefs of what I believe is a right way to approach a situation. So she did not pick up a single piece of glass. And the thing is, if I offer to help you do something because you are struggling, aka you broke your glass jar, I'm not suggesting to do it instead of you. I'm suggesting to help you doing it, not to do it instead of you. So I'm getting a little bit pissed off, because I'm like, okay, girl, like, are you going to, like, pick up the mess you made? Because, like, it's not my responsibility. I am doing this out of, like, goodwill, and don't treat me like it's my job to clean up. And then things went from bad to worse. So I was collecting the pieces of glass in a bigger piece of glass, like the biggest piece that there was. I was just putting the smaller pieces in the jar. What was once the jar. And I get up after collecting most of it, and then there were just like small little pieces of glass that were still left, and I had already cut myself, so I was like, yeah, I'm not just doing this, because there were a lot of tiny speckles of glass all over my hand, which I'm not trying to portray myself as the victim here. It's just I'm explaining the story of why I stopped picking up the glass. So I picked up most of the glass, which like literally just left a few small ones because I just could not anymore, because she didn't help me. Like I was down there in for multiple minutes collecting the glass that was hers. So I go to give her the glass that I had collected and I just say, there you go. And the next thing she did ruined humanity for me. And basically deprived me of all hope. And yes, today there was a bombing, because today I was already desperate about the state of humanity and what our future is going to look like. And this just hit the nail in the coffin. I go to give her the glass jar and she just tells me, yeah, and points and says, there's the trash can. I'm like, and the thing is, I, in that moment, can go and be like, you know what? Go to hell. Because I chose to come and help you. No one asked me to. I didn't have to do this. I could have just as easily as the hundreds of people there passed you and like gone on with my day, I come here, I pick it up for you instead of with you, and you're treating me as it's my responsibility to pick it up and dispose of it when it's your jar that you broke and you didn't take care of. And I was like, I'm not going to throw it away. I'm in that moment, I'm just shocked. I'm not saying anything. And I'm just shoving the jar in her hands because my other reaction would have been to just take everything I was holding in terms of glass and just smash it onto the ground. Because this is such ungrateful behavior. And I didn't go there to help because I wanted to be uh like thanked. I didn't go there for gratitude. I didn't go there for a reward or whatever. But she just, for you to expect me to fix the mess you made and you just sit there and watch is straight up disrespectful. It's straight up narcissistic, straight up egoistic, straight up exploitative of the good heart of someone who is just wanting to be a good fellow citizen and help you, because that could be me. I could also be in need of help, and like people will be passing me by. And I just felt so incredibly disappointed because hyper individualism is the death of humanity. And I have another example from this week, but before I give you that example, I just really want to say that I am still like so in shock that this is how I was treated by after I went to help her. I'm sorry. I know it's because like she just, when I went to give it to her, before she pointed, she just looked around and I was like, because obviously in my Bulgarian mind, if someone does something nice for you, you say thank you to them. And like if someone, like for example, because this is the way I was raised. Let's say I lost something or whatever, or like I'm in need of help and someone helps me, I am going to get them a box of chocolates or a bottle of wine or whatever, like something as a thank you gesture for the fact that they went through trouble and inconvenience themselves to help me. And I'm not saying that I want to be rewarded for my behavior. It's just like this is the way it is practiced in my culture. And for example, of last year I lost my wallet, and when I went to get it, because they had found it, they had left it at reception at university, and the day after I just went with a box of chocolates and I was like, hey, so this is please for the professor who found my wallet and returned it, could you please make sure that they get it, because I didn't know who the professor was who had found my wallet. And they just could not comprehend it, and they were like, are those chocolates for me? And I was like, no, they're because you, first of all, were not working yesterday when I came to pick up my wallet. This is for the person who found my wallet and decided to return it instead of taking the €3 I have there, and just, like tossing it. And I'm sure those chocolates never made it to the professor because that person simply, who was working the reception during that day, could not comprehend the fact that I would want to reward someone for that and I'm just not giving them chocolates for themselves. So, whatever. It's, yeah, and at first I was like, oh my God, because like we're in a street with cafes and restaurants and like bakers, and I'm like, oh my God, is she going to want to buy me a croissant or something like this, which is something I would have done? No, she was just looking for the trash can to show me the trash can so that I can go and throw out the jar. And it's just the principle of it all, because like this is not how you behave with towards someone who goes out of their way to help you. And again, I'm not seeking reward. I'm not seeking gratitude. but like you could have at least respected me. And like you shouldn't have to expect from me to clean up everything you did while you just sit there and look. I'm not your maid. I'm not being paid to do this. It's exploitative, it's extremely disrespectful, and it feels so incredibly dehumanizing and belittling. And I was very frustrated. I'm not going to lie. It's I know it's such a small instance, but to me it's just so indicative of the way I was perceived. And then this man, like as I was picking up the pieces of glass, this man went up to the girl, and he was talking to her in Dutch, saying like, oh my god, do you have a trash card, let's get rid of it. And the girl was like, no, I don't have a trash card. And that's why she pointed me towards the trash can. And just the man said, wow, this is very responsible of you, you're a responsible citizen. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Do you think I'm going to leave someone in their need, like a moment of need? Like, it's not being a responsible citizen, it's being like a minimum, uh, minimum, what's the terminology? Bare minimum person, bare minimum humanity. And then the other example I had from this week was, so again, after work, I was this time heading home, and on the street, again, on the other side of the pavement, I just see this man. He was, I want to say, around 30 years old, so young, which ironic considering that like 30 minutes ago I was about to cry because I was saying that like I'm turning 24 and I'm going to cry because I'm old. But like, self-perception and perception of others are two very different things. But like I see this young man just face down laying on the pavement unconscious. And there's like, and this is on a very busy um cross point, like what's the intersection, sorry, my English is really not Englishing today, and it has not been Englishing for like a while now, but like the microphone just fell. uh Babe, I really hope you're okay because you cost me a lot of money. um Anyways, so I just see this man who is laying face down on the pavement, unconscious, in one of the biggest, busiest intersections of the city center. And I go up to him. I don't touch him. I don't do anything. I just go up to him and I just say, "Sir, sir, are you okay? Sir, can you hear me?" He does not respond, and he's laying, lying in front of this store, and I see that someone is in the store despite the store not being open. And I just wave at them like this to try to catch their attention, and they see me. And I go up to them, I go up to the door, and this man opens the door, and I'm like, hey, have you seen this person is over here? Have you called an ambulance? And he just tells me, yeah, he's been here for a while. I've not called an ambulance, but I thought about calling the police so that they can get rid of him. I'm like, but this person is unconscious. He could be in need of medical help. And he's like, yeah, yeah. Oh, I, I, what? What do you mean? Like, sure, maybe he drank too much. Maybe he's on drugs and he passed out because of them. And I know that there's like a lot of people who pass out because of drugs and alcohol on the street every single day because this is the type of city I live in. Um, I know if that is the case, he's one of the many. And I know that because he's one of the many, you think that this is a case that's worth being neglectful towards. But this is someone who could have had a stroke, who could have had a heart attack, who could have fallen into a coma, who could have just fainted, who could have, like, maybe he's a diabetic and just went into like a shock. Like that person could be actively dying, although we all are actively dying ever since we're born, just like at a different pace. That person could be an active need of medical assistance, and you're just not going to do anything. You're not even going to ask him, try to wake him up to see if he's okay. And he just tells me, like, obviously, I don't say this because I'm just like shocked that by the looks of it, a 45-year-old man is so deprived of compassion and empathy that he would just let a stranger block the entrance to his store simply because he cannot be bothered to call an ambulance for someone who might actually be in need of medical help. And I'm just so disappointed in situations like these because, first of all, those are supposed to be the protectors. Second of all, what happened to empathy? What happened to compassion? What happened to humanity? Um, and then he just tells me, yeah, he was surrounded by some of his friends, but they left a while ago. So he's been there for a while. I'm like, well, do you know if he was conscious when they were here? He's like, yeah, no, I don't know. I And then I talked to him a bit more and he told me he's going to call 112 and get help. And I hope he did. Um, but to me, this is just shocking because that man was being passed by on the street by so many people. People were staring at him through their car windows, on their bikes as they were walking past him. No one stopped to ask if that man is okay. And then, after I stopped and tried to wake him up unsuccessfully, they just stared at me. And I just really wonder, like, this is what I mean by saying that individualistic societies and communal societies are fundamentally different. And from what it appears, fundamentally incompatible. Because this hyper individualism, this putting on the pedestal me, my interests, I as an individual, and everything I want, doesn't matter how it affects others, this is uprooting empathy, which I would like to believe we're innately born with. It's uprooting humanity. And yes, you may not be your brother's keeper in the sense that you're not responsible for other people's actions. But I feel like it's your human duty to act as a human towards other people and help them when they need help, not be scared to offer to help. And it's just outrageous to me that you will see someone lying unconscious on the middle of the street and you will not even dare approach them and ask if they need help. And the first time I was ever encountered with that as a concept, um and like actually recognized what it meant, was when I was in the UK. So I lived with a Bulgarian family. My host family was fully Bulgarian, and obviously, despite them having lived in the UK for quite a few years, they grew up in the culture I grew up in. And in communal countries like Bulgaria, sure, we may be perceived by the West as derogatory, regressive, detrimental to progress in society and civilization and modernity, but we're people. We have not lost our humanity, and yes, we may be divided. We may not agree with each other. We may insult each other. We may be vulgar. There may be a lot of things that are wrong with the Bulgarian folk. But I just know that if, God forbid, something happens to me on the street in Bulgaria, people will run to help because I have seen it with my own eyes. And here it just feels like if I fall on the street and my head, God forbid, like, not to speak it into existence, but like, um if something happens and like I'm bleeding on the street, no one is going to help me. And so I'll tell you two examples of when I first encountered this. Let's first say the UK one, because this is the one I started talking about. So when I went to the UK, I was going out of the gym and I saw this girl laying lying unconscious in the middle of the road. I mean, like, someone had pulled her to the pavement, uh, but she was unconscious. And I was like, there were two or three people next to her, none of her whom were her friends. Nobody knew her. And I just went up to them and I was like, what can I help with? What can I do? How can I make everything easier? What do you need? And they're like, no, we've called an ambulance. They're on their way. Don't worry. And we just stayed until an ambulance arrived and she was taken care of by the paramedics. And then I went to my host family and I told them what had happened. And they told me, please be careful and don't touch anyone who's on the ground, who's unconscious or conscious. Because what happens here is that people basically relying on people's presence of empathy and humanity in them and this innate need to help someone in need, they abuse it in the sense that if they're laying on the ground, laying or lying, sometimes I always mess up those verbs. Doesn't matter. That's so not the point of the story. Um, they so if you go to help them and you touch them, they can sue you for inflicting harm on them while they're struggling or something like this. And there are people who do this intentionally put themselves in dangerous situations so that they can benefit off of the goodwill of other people to help them. And to me, that was just so incredibly disheartening and so incredibly inhumane and immoral and ethically questionable, because it had never crossed my mind as an option of doing that ever. Because if someone wants to help you, they just want to help you, they don't want to hurt you. And I'm not, if someone is there and they perform first aid on me and let's say break a rib in the process of doing me, like doing a mouth to mouth resuscitation, do you think I'm actually going to sue them for breaking my rib, or just be grateful for the rest of my life that they saved my life? Yeah, take a guess, take a wild guess from everything I've said so far. But the very first time I just experienced this discrepancy in cultures and this incompatibility between individualistic and communal cultures is when I first moved here. I lived in a different house. I lived in this building. I lived with 8 people, and with half of them, we had gone out to this bar. And we were like, it was still in the first, I want to say, 1 2 or 2 months of us knowing each other, but like obviously everybody was new, so nobody had friends, so we had considered each other our closest people. And my mom is always like, oh, please send me the number of your housemates or your friends, because if something happens and you don't pick up your phone, I want to be able to reach you somehow, and I want to be able to make sure that you're okay. And this was the moment in which I was like, yeah, mom, it wouldn't do any difference whether you had their numbers or not. And the reason I'm saying is that this is because so we went out to this bar and I got my period. But this was one of the worst periods I had ever gotten, in terms of I was shivering, I had a fever, I was feeling like throwing up. My body was shaking uncontrollably. I could not stand on my feet. Every single bone, every single muscle in my body hurt. I had a terrible migraine. I was feeling overall not well. And actually, this was PMSing. This wasn't the period itself. So I was like, hey guys, I'm just going to go home. I'm really not feeling well. I could barely stand on my feet. I had to constantly hold on to something or someone to be able to balance on my 2 feet. And I just tell them this, and I tell them I'm really not feeling well. And you can see it on my face. Like, you, for the visual uh, audience, you see I'm pale. I am as white as people come. I'm basically blending into this wall. Um, but I had gone like ghost white, and it was really not okay. And it basically, from that bar, it was like a 25-minute walk to where I used to live. I walked those 25 minutes in an hour. I was really not okay. And I went home. I got to my room. Like, we all lived together in the same unit, but everybody had their own room. I went to my room. I laid down. They came home a few hours later. Nobody texted me to see if I made it home. Nobody texted me to see if I need anything. Um, and they did not see me for 3 days. Nobody knocked on my door. Nobody texted me. Nobody reached out to see if I'm alive, to see if I feel better. And to me, that was so incredibly disheartening because, and I know it's not fair, but I would have never done this. I would have never treated them like this because, and what is unfair is that I cannot expect from other people to treat me the way I would treat them. But to me, it's just simply incomprehensible how someone is telling you that they are just physically not okay in every single aspect of their being, and you live with that person and you're not going to check on them for 3 days. And that's when I realized that those people would not know if I am alive until, or like if I've died, until my corpse starts smelling. And that was a very disheartening truth to come to terms with, because I just know that, yes, maybe like in communal countries, it's not ideal. Like, there is nosiness. There is like people expect you to answer questions, to say where you've been, who you're going with, and like there are other problems that come with communal countries in terms of lack of boundaries. But I just know that if I don't feel good in Bulgaria and I let my friends know, let alone my family, those friends text me multiple times a day to see how I am. And yes, of course, it's highly dependent also on the individual, but the individual is a product of their environment. And that's why I really believe that this radical individualism, and don't get me wrong, I am a hyper individualistic person. I am an individualist to a fault, in the terms of I want to be hyper independent. I don't want to be reliant on anyone for anything. I want to achieve everything by myself. But I come from a communal country, like communal culture. So I know that this is just unrealistic. Like, you cannot get anywhere in life without people. And just seeing everyone be so hyper individualistic and living in their own bubble and not caring for the stranger. And again, the stranger may not be your responsibility, but in a sense, you are your brother's keeper, because you have some sort of civic human duty to protect I mean, like, it's not your duty to protect anyone but yourself, but like, you know what I mean? Like, right? Like, it's just, it, to me, it feels so incredibly backwards, this hyper individualism. And like, society managed to sustain itself because first of tribes, then communities, because yes, sure, this also carried problems with itself in terms of us versus them, but like, it's never, if society was built on I versus you, it would have never survived. And this hyper individualism of everyone living in their own bubble disconnects us. It is the erosion of humanity, and hyper individualism is the death of empathy, and it is the death of close, meaningful relationships that are not purely transactional, that mean something, that are created on the basis of more than what can you do for me and what would you want in return. And it's so incredibly disheartening that this is on the rise, because you, and I'm not saying you should eradicate and erase your individualism and your identity. I'm absolutely not saying this. But you can be an individual, you can be an identity within a community. Because through community, through companionship, through relationships, through society, can you develop, because you are a social being. And being hyper individualistic is anti what is innate in you, anti what is your birthright, what is your nature's calling to be a part of a society. And don't come out here and tell me I'm a lone wolf. Sure, you can be a lone wolf, but like, you're still a part of a society in one way or another. You're affected by society, and you cannot want to profit off of society, and society is good, but not partake in it. And I just really don't like, I would rather, as a Balkan person, as a Bulgarian person, as an Eastern European, be perceived as regressive, detrimental to modernization, to the civilization, to the Europeanness of Western Europe. I would rather be perceived as a threat to that than profit off of, or be defined by egoism, hyper individualism, and self centeredness. Because while my world revolves around me and while my life is about me, I cannot reject the fact that my decisions affect others. And I just don't live in a vacuum. You don't live in a vacuum. And the perception that you do is what is eroding you as an identity, because identities are constructed within context, and you decontextualizing yourself from the society from in which you belong is actually doing you a massive disfavor. And yeah, it's it's just so incredibly sad, and that's why I don't know if I mean, honestly, this is this communal nature, this communal upbringing I feel very privileged to have had. I wasn't appreciative of when I was back in Bulgaria, but I'm hyper appreciative of right now. Um, I would never want to lose that. I, in this progressively individualized world, I would rather be a part of a community. And I hope I never lose this sense, because a sense of belonging is one of our innate needs. Like this, no matter how much you say you don't care about others and others' opinions of you, you still want to belong in one way or another in some capacity. And just, it's sad. It's really sad. And if I would rather give up, I mean, not that I have them, but like the caviar, the Ferraris, the modernization of Western Europeanness, I would give that up in a nick of time if it meant I would have to trade in my humanity for egoism and hyper individualism, because to me, this individualism leads to egoism. And egoism, while not like having a causal relationship, there is a correlative relationship with narcissism. And it's just, this is what is regressive to modernization. This is what's regressive to progress. This is what's regressive to modernity, to civilization. And I feel like once we realize that we all are a part of one whole, and all our beings and doings and behaviors and discourse and actions affect others and not just us, then I feel like we can re-nurture the empathy which seems to have been on the dissolving aspect. And I feel like only then will we be progressive enough to create a sort of unity through which we can blossom. Um, but that's unfortunately, I guess, a bit too utopian at this stage of our historical development. Um, it's just, I don't know. That's why I fear I'm having that big of problems with integrating into cultures which are just so fundamentally different in their outlook to the culture I grew up in. And I don't know if that means that I will never be able to integrate, that I will never be able to belong anywhere else but Bulgaria. Um, but this is a really good food for thought. And yeah, I just don't know what else to say. I'm extremely disappointed by the way these two situations were handled by the glass jar lady and the I want to call it the police to get rid of him man, because apparently getting rid of someone unconscious because they might be like that image might spill over into your brand and your store is more important than actually helping someone who might be in grave danger. But yeah, who am I? Like it's not, while it is not my responsibility to upbring people and teach people morals and norms and like what it means to be a part of a society and not just want to profit off of that society. Um I feel like it's my duty to speak on those issues and point out why they're issues on a grander scale than just inconveniencing me on a Saturday afternoon or whatever. But with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Happy 1st of March. Here's your digital. I share my Magdanica with you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you found it thought provoking. I hope you found it interesting. And I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye.